Hey, we are live. Yay. Hey, it's Sue Greenwald with Awaken Stories. I'm here today with Deb Nixon. Hey, Deb, how are you? Deborah
I'm
Nixon.
good. How
Yeah,
are you, Sue?
yeah. We're here today to talk about busting dyslexia. And we're going to tell a story about Deborah and how she grew up and how she, navigated the world with dyslexia. And then we're going to talk about like some basically tips to recognize dyslexia and kind of tricks how to navigate the world. So very interesting topic because the outside world doesn't know much about it. And even now we consider dyslexia a special ed topic, meaning we consider those people handicapped. And in a way, maybe they are if they can't read, but many times they're more intelligent than the masses are. So hey, Deborah, do you want to tell us your story?
Well, I could tell you that when I was 6, I was sent home from school and told not to come back. My mother was informed that I was so challenged that she should not send me back to school. I was unteachable. And she happened by a mirror with one of my papers, and it was perfect in the mirror. So I learned to write cursive backwards.
Wow.
Then she took me to see at that time you went to see a psychiatrist who did all kinds of tests and says, yes, she is a textbook dyslexic. She has a severe form of it, and I see total mirror images. Um, when I realized from what he said that the genes that cause this are also genes for high intelligence. So they put me back in school, and I went into LD, learning disabled, and in advanced classes all at the same time.
It sounds like a paradox, doesn't it?
It,
Learning disabled and advanced classes. So basically, before we go any further, your mother ran your paper by a mirror. Like what would possess her to think to do that, I wonder?
she did it by accident.
Ah,
She just happened to have my paper in her hand, and she walked by the hall mirror, and she went, the aha moment.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
So I had a tutor for one summer, and the lady taught me eye tricks. I call them eye tricks. And I would tell you that being a dyslexic is a blessing, and I would never trade it. I think that it's been an asset to my life and the way that I do things. And you see things differently than other people. So you have a perspective that they don't, and it's something to share.
Okay. So that, especially back then, I don't, a learning disability was a much bigger deal. It was a much bigger handicap. Like now there's so many disabilities out there, autism and whatever. They have special departments and they have a lot of teachers, they have aides, they have a budget, blah, 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 blah. They didn't have that way back when. In
No,
fact, it's a big stigma back then to have any sort of disability whatsoever. Okay. So it is even unusual, though, that you had both learning disabled classes and then the advanced classes at the same time. Crazy, crazy. So, what happened? You were in those classes, and what happened? Like, kind of fast forward us through
well,
your life.
fast forward, um, I learned very quickly how to adapt, and I ended up being a straight A student. Um, I ended up in foster care. I, I think I graduated high school the first time when I was 13,
Wow, wow.
and they wouldn't go ahead and move me because I was in foster care. So then I did a GED, and just with the scores I had at 16, I was able to get into college. So I was I was definitely not slow. I may have had some adaptations, but I think I've done quite well in my work, in the work arena, and in communicating and in learning to deal with it. I still transpose letters. Spell check is a great friend of mine.
Right, right.
And I guess the other thing is I will go left when I should go right. So I do like the car play, the maps and the cars,
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
that's a, I'm much more comfortable driving. I used to print maps and take them with me so that I could remember which way I was going.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because as a child, I was basically ambidextrous. So I couldn't tell my left from my right because I used them both.
right.
So I would tell you that I tutored children for remedial reading at the elementary school where my children went for years because it was a way I could give back for the lovely lady that helped me.
Okay. And I want to find out more about what she did. Um, that's really important. But so your story, I wanted to get your story out first because that tell us a little bit about some of the jobs you had and then your most recent jobs and what you coulda, shoulda, and woulda what done. Like tell us about, what you've done through your life. Because what she's done is not typical for a dyslexic person.
Oh, but I guess when I started my career, or basically, I was an office manager for a good size HVAC company.
Mhm.
And I took them from paper books to using the computer accounting model. So we went into QuickBooks. So that was a major hurdle. And then because he made me keep two sets of books at all times because he was carrying a paper book in his truck and one went in the safe in the office. So it took him a while before he'd let go of the paper
Right, right.
and accept the computer. So that was the first one. And then I moved to Albuquerque. When I moved to Albuquerque, I went to work at a law firm and I worked all the way around the accounting department in for the law firm. I was there probably almost 4 years. And then I was hired by a travel agency. And I was their accounting manager for another 3 or 4 years. And then I got offered a job with a security company. And I stayed there for 19 years. And I was their office manager and accounting person.
Okay.
Then I went to work for um, a large security company. I mean, global. And there I did the coordinating the jobs and receiving stuff in the warehouse. And that I did for 3 years. And then I went to another national firm. The global, you kind of get lost in those places.
Okay. Yeah.
And I worked there for the last 3 years, and I moved all around in there because I get bored really easy. So I worked there. I worked in the administration department, coordinating jobs, and then I moved into sales. And I had already done that at uh, one of the previous jobs, the one I was at for 19 years. So I was showing them how to do government sales.
So basically, what I wanted to show is that you've had jobs where you've had to have a lot of attention to detail. So you work with numbers, like initially you were the bookkeeper, so you probably did it by hand, pencil, ledger sheet and all that with decimal points and all that.
Yep.
And that had to be a lot of attention to detail. If you get that stuff wrong, that it's gonna come back at you very soon. And
Very
then
quick.
and then you've gone into various administrative positions and sales position. Again, attention to detail. You have to probably read technical specs in some cases.
Yep.
And I just wanted to ask, like it's probably roughly put, but you are more of an engineer type. Like you are more interested in like engineering. I don't know how else to say it. Is that true?
Well, I sent myself to college for, they say, electronics.
Okay.
So yes, and I was taking all the power formulas and all that stuff,
Yeah.
which was kind of interesting. And when I tell you, you get a new view, you have to register with your college professors as dyslexic, or you're supposed to. So I was doing I was doing 11 credit hours and working full time with children. It was
Oh,
amazing.
add in the kids. That's
So I
yeah.
showed up for class. I was really tired, and when I'm really tired, I can still mirror write, not on purpose.
Okay.
So I showed up for class, and the professor had put these two very serious power formulas on the board. And he said, I want you to copy these down and solve for X, whatever it was that, you know. So I copied it down backwards, both problems, and answered them, and didn't even realize that I had transposed the entire thing. Like I said, I see total mirror images. So he called me up to his desk and he says, Miss Nixon, can you look at this? And he goes, can I keep your paper? And I said, what do you? I said, yeah, I was apologetic. And he said, no, no, no. You wrote these down backwards and you solved them. And I want to keep your paper and study it because this is an inverse. You've now made a new problem and solved it. So the dyslexia I have found to be an asset.
Okay. Interesting. So you didn't really go into engineering. I know, you've had a long career and all of that, and you're changing again. And it's very exciting, but why is it you didn't go into more inventing and engineering and mechanical wiring stuff?
Well, I actually did go ahead and get my contractor's license because I
Okay.
was in the field as a young lady. So I had my ESL3, which I could have opened my own security business. But that's really not my passion. It's been um, educating people and helping. My son was ADD, and they diagnosed him as was a hyperactive deficit disorder.
Mhm.
And that's when I started learning about the foods and the dyes and the poisons and better ways to feed ourselves. I call it, you say, it, let your food be your medicine be your food.
Right, right.
So I have gone into very specialized recipes for um, for that
Yeah,
actually,
yeah, yeah.
where let's say where nutrition meets where nutritious meets delicious is what I.
Well, many people don't realize that autism is very largely caused by food dyes. So we've got, kids cereal, kids candy, and all this stuff they market to kids. It's all red, it's bright blue, it's bright yellow. Those are not natural colors.
And full
Okay.
of sugar.
So full of sugar, full of dyes, full of preservatives. Okay. So, and people don't know, but that is causing so much trouble. And then you give them the jabs throughout their lives. It's not good. Not good. So
So because of my son, I started doing these recipes,
yeah.
and it's grown into a let's say a little business.
Yeah. Yeah. And you'll be focusing more on that in the future, I think, among other things.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So good. So how would one recognize whether they or their child or whoever had dyslexia? What are the signs and the symptoms?
the first thing I would tell you is slow reading skills.
Yes,
Reading out loud. It's very hard to read out loud when you have to assimilate it backwards.
right.
You could be very smart and you're still slow because you're reading it backwards. Um, There's a reluctance to want to read out loud or to read it in class.
Right.
Um, Difficulty spelling. My name, I went by Debbie as a little girl, and I would put Deddie constantly because D's and B's, Q's and P's,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
Um, I would write from both sides of the page. When I would sit down, I'd go from the left. I'd sit down the next to go from the right. Yeah, I couldn't tell my left from my right because they were both the same to me.
yeah, yeah.
Very slow writing skills. I learned to write cursive, but I learned backwards. I would I had a teacher who was not very understanding, so it exacerbated the situation.
Right, right.
Um, Teachers often think the students are dumb because they're slow, and when they relate that to the child, even just by them being exacerbated with the situation, the child picks up on it. I picked up on it anyway, and it made me feel terrible. I didn't want to go to school. That's one of the symptoms of reluctance to even want to go to school.
Yeah. So there's a lot of frustration and of course stigma that, the child is stupid, which is not even close to the case. Usually it's the opposite. We just haven't given them the right tools to learn.
The other thing I would tell you that I've noticed with myself and my children and grandchildren is we constantly put our shoes on the wrong feet as kids.
Mhm.
I also had trouble learning how to tie my shoes. And when I did learn how to do it, I learned backwards. So the laces go up my shoe instead of down the front of the shoe. The bows
Uh-huh.
are backwards. To
Interesting.
this day, I still tie my shoes backwards.
Interesting.
Um, let's see, I think that's pretty much the symptoms. Um, I mean, that's the signs. The symptoms would be um, the, the child might dislike school. They certainly don't like reading out loud. I was constantly accused of daydreaming. A lot of it was just trying to assimilate what I was doing backwards. Can you imagine trying to learn how to read backwards?
No.
It's very difficult. There are eye tricks, so we'll get to that. It takes you longer than others to do simple classroom assignments. Um, you feel like you're different. You feel like you're ostracized. And if the teacher isn't, you say, understanding, the kids pick up on it and then they pick on you too.
Right, right.
And then comes the feeling of being defeated before you've even begun. So the tips, we can go right into tips now. The tips, I used a flip chart. I know we all use computers and screens, but I used a flip chart to write on it, and I would give the kids a tablet, or I mean a paper,
Pad of paper.
a pad of paper that was the similarly marked, like for writing,
Right.
spaced. And then I always put my hand at the left-hand corner of the page where we start, so that they would remember to start from that side. I constantly would put my hand there and say, we're starting here, and then I would check them. And I said, no, it's right here. And then reaffirm that this gene that causes this makes them intelligent as well. They are intelligent children. They're smart. Um, you just have to keep, reiterating and backing them up and telling them they're smart and let them feel good about being who they are. Because once they relax, then they can come into this and adapt.
Right, right.
Then I would put them in a group and have them help each other, because they learn by teaching. Most people do, actually. So in a group, they would help each other start. Oh no, start from over here. Remember, we start from over here. And actually, I don't think I ever had a child that didn't move forward after the little eye tricks. And when I say eye tricks, it's mainly just orienting them. You just have to keep doing it, orienting them to start on that side.
Right. Top. So in this case, it would be the top left. And you would
Yes.
do it so often that would they finally get understanding that that was the correct spot?
Yeah, without me correcting them, I would just put my hand at that corner and say, we're starting here. We're starting here.
Yeah.
Because you don't want it to be a correction. You want it to a
Yeah.
reorientation.
Yes. Good point. Good point.
Um, tell them they're smart. Tell them that this gene makes them very intelligent. Um, then the other thing I would do is I would teach them phonetic spelling, because we can't trust what we're seeing because we're seeing differently than everybody else.
Right.
Phonetic spelling helped me tremendously. I said, remember to make it fun. You need to make it fun. I used to do something I called, I used to get gumballs. 3 are hot, no, was it 3 are hot, 7 are not? Gumball, stuff like that. And we
Yeah.
play games.
Yeah.
Flashcards, alphanumeric flashcards, where you spell the word and it has a picture on the other side. And you can do it with the kids first, and then you let them play with the cards and do it with each other. Spelled words, with the color on the other side. That I use these with my own kids. It is tremendously different than using the computer. And it's tactile. It's something they have in their hands, and they reorient the brain to read, to start from the left side. So then the computer games, I would tell you the one computer game in particular that really helped myself and my children was called Letter Invaders.
Letter invaders.
Yes, and it teaches you the typing, the keyboard, and you type the letter to shoot it. So you're learning the keyboard as you're playing this game.
Okay.
And that was the one that helped me with. I had trouble with typing. I did.
Right.
And that really helped me type faster
Right.
and more accurately. The other thing I found with dyslexic kids, they need the overviews. They need the 30,000-foot view of what they're doing. So like if you're teaching them multiplication tables and you're holding up flashcards, that's great. But they need a copy of the entire multiplication table.
Right.
So you give them that, and then you have them go write their own. And in writing their own, they will learn the multiplication tables much faster than if you just gave them the cards.
Okay.
Let's see what I was going to. And then you just keep building them up while they're doing it. If they make mistakes, you help them and tell them how smart they are that they got this far. Because they've got hurdles. But I can tell you this. I did work as a night auditor too for a number of years. And I could pick out transposed numbers in a list like no other. So if anybody had transposed a number when I print, because you used to print them off of, we didn't have computers then, you printed them off of tapes, and you'd have to go search through the tapes for the transposition. But yeah, so a lot of accounting.
Yeah, a lot of numbers. And again, you have to keep everything in line, and numbers can be transposed and turned around just like letters.
Oh yeah.
Just
I'll still write a 3 as an E on occasion.
Yeah. And a lot of little kids do that in their learning process normally. But what we're talking about is consistently you're transposing or flipping the letters and numbers.
Only when I'm really tired now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I still can do it. If I'm that tired, um, I could still do it and go,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not on a regular basis. Just remember that you have or the child has a different perspective, a point of view, and it's good. It gives them more things to offer
Right.
once they master the difference, the way they see things differently.
Right. Right.
Um, a matter of fact, they used to call me the sponge at work. They had me learn everybody's position, and when anybody came in, I trained them.
Well, there's no question how intelligent you are, and that's why I wanted to bring up the engineering piece. You didn't really go into that field like full time, but and you were graduated early. Like, how impressive is that? You had a lot of obstacles to overcome. Plus, you had a lot of family and issues at the same time. It was not an easy life.
No,
No, I've interviewed Deborah twice before. I think we did one about, becoming awake and kind of your life story, which is fascinating. And then we did another one about your interesting, intuitive experiences. So those are on this channel if people are interested. But you had a lot to overcome and you did so beautifully.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I would tell you that it's a benefit. I would never, I would, if I could take it back tomorrow and not have it, I wouldn't. I thank Daddy for I thank Daddy for it.
Okay. Okay. Well, my daughter has dyslexia, and so I can tell the story from the other angle.
Mm,
So she's extremely intelligent, all the good things. And around fifth grade, fourth grade, her teacher said there's something not right. She's not progressing properly. And I'm like, get out, get out of town, didn't
yeah,
believe them. But they asked if they could test her. So the school, brought in all these specialized tests and this and that, and this and that. They never tested her for dyslexia. Okay, so she had months of testing, like how she held a pencil or pen, how she sat in the chair, like crazy things, right? They spent a lot of money and time on this, most likely, and they never caught it. So what I would notice is when she would read a book, instead of reading it like we do, straight on, she would have the book like diagonal or something. And I'd walk by and I'd say, put your book straight. No wonder you're not reading as fast as you should. Not like that to her so much, but in my head, put your book straight. How can you read when it's sideways? Right? So what happened is I had a psychic person, a friend of mine, that I talked to, and out of the blue, she said to me, you need to work on your daughter like now. Like she kept saying, now, now, now. She needs help. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, she needs help with her reading and her eyesight. I was like, you're crazy because her eyesight is really good. All right. And she's learning to read. She's a little slow, but she's fine. So here's what happened. I looked up a children's eye specialist in the area, took her to this person, and this person had experience with this and did some testing. And I was in the room while she took the test, and I could have cried right there. She was supposed to copy shapes and this and that. And like the shape would be completely upside down, twisted, turned, whatever. So basically, they gave her exercises for her eyes. So her eyes would work as a team. So they were like two little circles with dots in the middle and an X on one. And I don't know exactly what she had to do, but it was a focusing issue, an eye teaming issue. So she did those exercises, and like a month later, it was like she was 90% better. It was like night and day. All right. And then we did some other training for her. There was a program in my area that she did get into, and by the time she got into it, she was in high school. But she stuck with it, and she's very intelligent. She has her master's, she's a teacher, all the good things, but it was quite painful to go through at the time because we didn't know. Now, one thing that helped us diagnose it, and we did this at home, okay? I assume the school had tested for dyslexia, and they did not. They don't want to give people diagnoses unless it is convenient for them, evidently. But she was reading a book out loud to us, and she kept messing it up. And we were like, okay, whoa, whoa, whoa. Read me each word slowly in the sentence. And then she messed that up a little bit. Okay, now read me each letter in every word. And the letters were, she skipped letters. So if it was a word like elephant, ELEPH, she might say EPAT. Oh my God, right? So that was our big wake up. There is definitely something wrong, and she definitely needs to be tested. And that all came together beautifully all at the same time. So, yeah. So I figured it out at the urging of a psychic friend of mine, and the eye doctor was fabulous. So we did the eye teaming exercises, and we got her training as life went on, and we just practiced. And then we did get her more time. So when she took tests, like when she say did the SAT or whatever, she had a little bit more time. And she was also allowed to bring a highlighter into the test with her, which she really didn't use as much, but the extra time was always welcome. So that's her story. And she's now a productive member of society. No one would have ever known unless I spilled the beans, right? But it was not an easy thing to diagnose.
That was the other thing they gave. Just to add to that, my daughter, they gave her tinted sheets to put over the white paper, tinted
Ah,
sheets to put over the computer screen.
yeah.
They were saying that the difference between the black and the white print, that sometimes that exacerbated the situation.
Oh,
And that they had suggested that I get her tinted lenses.
oh, okay. Did that help?
It did, actually. She says it did. I never used them, so
Okay.
personally I can't tell you, but
Yeah. Yeah.
make,
So again, we have it's kind of a mysterious little thing we've got going about how things get twisted up in our brain, whether it's an eye thing, a brain thing, or whatever. But in my opinion, it is helpful to be able to easily read in our society. All right. Like we have text on everything, and you really need to correctly read the bottle, the book, the whatever it might be, the instructions, the recipe, right? So it is a skill that people need. They're not teaching cursive anymore. I don't know if you know that. They stopped teaching cursive years ago. Wow. But we still need to read. And now I know we're using our devices, our phones that can dictate. We can dictate to the phone can dictate back. Same with the computer, but I think we still need those necessary skills.
I also took a speed reading course because I was slow. And
Yeah.
the speed reading, it actually helped a lot.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, there's a lot of little things out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it?
Mhm.
Are there any other things you want to tell us about the tips or the tricks on how to detect and like let's call it live with dyslexia?
Well, the first thing is to convince the child it can be an asset. It
Yeah,
is not just a difficulty.
right.
Learning to use it and live with it it may require a little added, uh,
Effort.
yes.
Yeah.
However, it gives you the ability to see what others have missed.
Right.
or overlooked. You'll see what others don't. Um, you have a different perspective and point of view. And I think it's a blessing.
Awesome. Well, your story is very interesting, and what you've accomplished is commendable.
As a foster kid, yeah, it
Yeah.
was. As
Yeah.
a foster,
When you hear her life story, it's mind blowing. And that isn't even all the details, of course, right? It's just
yeah.
a glossy overview. It's quite interesting. So you've done great.
Oh, I didn't have. I had to go to the hospital with my mom, and at this late date in life, we are really good friends and having a nice time.
Awesome. That's really important, don't you think?
It is.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Oh, I wanted her, and she went home from the hospital like the next day.
Yeah. And also there's forgiveness there on both parties.
Oh, um, it. How do we say it? At this late date, it's beyond forgiveness. There's an actual overlooking because
Yeah.
we're all just human on a spiritual adventure as a human.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
when I realized how fragile she was,
Yeah.
I told her I had no questions. I have nothing to ask of her. Let's just be friends.
Awesome. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Is there anything else about your story that you wanted to
I
share?
oh I don't think so. I think we got it all.
All right. All right.
Just
Well,
remember to build them up and tell them they're smart.
yeah. Yeah. You know that movie, I think it's called The Help with the maids in Mississippi. She goes, you was smart, you was important. I don't remember the third thing, but building the kids up, not with false compliments, okay, but make them feel that they're capable and then help them become capable.
Important,
Yeah.
capable, and important.
Yes.
Important.
Everyone is a piece of a giant puzzle. Like it's a complex puzzle. We all have different strengths and weaknesses, but we all are needed. We're all necessary. And the more skill and the more confidence that we have, the better we can play our part.
You made me remember something. If you
Okay.
remember, I told you I was in the LD classes
Yeah.
and the advanced at the same time.
Yeah.
I have a whole nother perspective on LD because they are different intelligences.
Yes.
They are not unintelligent. They're different.
Right.
And um, I found myself in more than one fight defending many of them.
Right. Right. Uh, have you ever met somebody that is really good? They can walk into a room and they can place things around the room. They have a way of visualizing the physical space and all that. Or, we're all good at different ways. And they say there's something like 20, is it 5 or 27 different ways of learning? We're all different. So everything is important. But the problem is the school districts, we have a box that we're all supposed to fit into, and not everyone does. So, yeah. But I wanted to point out some of this, the signs and the symptoms. So if your child is having trouble, it doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean they're stupid. It means maybe they're having trouble acclimating to the way we teach, right? And maybe the school hasn't discovered the way to test properly. So don't give up. There's hope out there. There's help out there. There's hope for you, right?
Find a tutor.
Yeah. 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 Find a tutor and get someone to come in that's very patient and can buck the child's their confidence level up. I guess that's it.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your story and your persistence. And it'll be interesting to see where we are very soon.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sue. You have a
Bye-bye.
great day.
You too.